as out-of-the-box thinkers. We're problem solvers. In the same ways that we solve problems for our corporate clients or $50 million, dollar budgets, go into the communities around us, work with nonprofits, and find them tax breaks that we find our corporate clients. Or, think of ways that they can use the resources they have sustainably to build what they need with low resources. So just take an active effort to change the clients we go after.
I guess my message is, while it's great and awesome that we as architects talk about what we can do as architects, that sometimes we need to step outside of our shoes as architects and put ourselves in the place of the people that we're trying to help, to tap into that empathy so we can see things both from our design perspective and also from that client's perspective. Maybe that'll open our eyes to those social issues that sometimes, elude us. It'll make us more sensitive to their problems and maybe help us to find solutions that can better address those problems.
Okay.
Last week I was at a lecture that was given by Andres Duane of the Congress of the Urbanism. And he reminded the audience that when we look at Dubai and all of those places over there in the Middle East with these wonderful, well, I'm not saying wonderful buildings, but all these large buildings and large urban developments, that all of that is there because of us, all of us sitting in this room, I think are middle-class Americans. All of that is because of us, because we buy oil that they sell to us. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, I said, what if that money could have stayed here? What if we had an economic model that allowed us to keep our resources here so that we could sustain our communities in a better way? So somehow we need to find an economic model, because the people with the money are the ones running the world. And unless there's some kind of paradigm shift to focus sustainable development, sustainability on the rest of the world, the other
80%,
600 billion people, is what, 1 million that are wealthy or whatever. Unless we find a model that brings that money back to them and us, I don't know how we're going to achieve this. I really don't.
Yes, I been sitting listening to all the different dialogue. The perspective that I spend most of my time working on comprehensive planning, and in terms of the different initiatives, the social infrastructure and the built environment, I see those going in parallel tracks, and there are people focusing on the built environment. We hear people talk about LEED and sustainability so much that it's annoying. But then we have this other group of people talking about social programs, the neighborhood, social issues, infrastructure, poverty, all of that. And each of them are creating a plan on how they're going to solve it. Well, I think one of the things that maybe, hopefully, as you suggested, Carlton, there might be a possibility to combine those two efforts and figure out a method to create a plan to address it that intertwines the two. On working on campus plans, often those plans are specifically about the student need. It's about increasing the retention rates. It's about the experience that you have as a student. All of those campuses have brand spanking new buildings that meet LEED requirements. Those provide the functional needs of a classroom, but it's taking those specific people needs, the different challenges for international students, for students that are first generation students, students from different economic levels, and combining all of those challenges together and creating a comprehensive plan that encompasses all of those. So you know, if there's anything that I would say is to try and combine it, to look at the issues together, not having them be separate, and then coming up with, you know, ideas for how to address each one, and then figuring out little strategies here and there.
Move beyond the stovepipes, be more holistic. Okay. You had one person behind you. Did you have a comment you want to share? Okay. We'll wrap up after this comment.
Then it's not all about economics. It's about moral values. It's about doing what is right. Okay. We saw in the last presidential election that all the money in the world couldn't get an opponent elected. It was about the underlying cause of doing what was right, moral, and ethical for the country. So when we do what's right, it transcends all the chicanery associated with money.
Okay. All right. We'll end on that note. In terms of wrapping up, again, I applaud you, so I want to thank you all for taking the time to participate in this very important global conversation. I need to emphasize that. I'm glad that NOMA was the first professional association to be a part of this. I will probably take this conversation to Atlanta when the Planning and the Black Community Division is meeting there for the National Planning Conference, because I think diversity is our strength in America. And we have the infrastructure in terms of all these great professional associations. And so I feel often, you know, if you want to get an answer done, you go to someone who's really thinking the most critically about it. And I feel that many of the minority professional associations often think about these issues because we often have to have our feet firmly planted in two worlds, our own community and then a more mainstream community. And so having said that, again, I just want to raise in terms of three issues. One, if you have an interest in being a field hearing partner, and what that means is if you want to encourage having a conversation like this, I don't know whether it's in your respective community, at your university, with your firm on the job, you can become a field partner simply by contacting the Initiative for Equality and expanding the conversation, particularly to those communities, individuals whose voices normally may not be heard as part of the dialogue that occurs on sustainable development. For those who weren't here earlier, the reason why these field hearings are occurring is because we often don't have the opportunity to go to Copenhagen or go to Brazil when they're having these larger international conversations. And so the point of this is to take the conversation to the people themselves. So that's point number one. Two, there is a space on Facebook for the Initiative for Equality. So if you're interested in learning more, you can go to Facebook. You can like them if you so desire. They have their own website. The URL is www.initiativeforequality.org. And then finally, there was a sign-in sheet that I shared at the beginning, which wasn't for continuing education credits, but if you wanted to receive more information on the Initiative for Equality, we just wanted to capture who was actually here. Again, we're not going to share personal information for any of the reports that are prepared. We just want to make sure that we have a clear sense in terms of people who want to continue to be part of the conversation, and that's what that's for. So that's all. It's now the lunch hour. I apologize for taking 10 extra minutes, but this has been a good conversation, and I appreciate your participation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.